Good evening. I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting of Tuesday, February 19, 2019. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please.
Okay. Albertson?
Here.
Bueller? Here. Danforth?
Here.
Lallam?
Here.
Manti? Absent. Roby?
Here.
Solom?
Here.
Thorson? Absent. Vilhauer?
Here.
Y?
Present.
Thank you.
All right, the first item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion and second for approval? Moved by Bueller. Second by Albertson. Any discussion? See none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item number 2 is public comment. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak, now's your chance. See none, we'll move on. Item number 3 is approval of the agenda. Moved by Vilhauer. Second by Bueller. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item number 4 is the 2018 annual report presentation from First District Association of Local Governments. And I see Todd Kays, the Executive Director, is here to give that. So it's all yours, Todd.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. It's that time of the year where I like to get out and speak with the major municipalities in our planning district as well as our 11 counties, just to give you an update of what's been transpiring in our region over the last year and some of the work activities. For many of you, this is somewhat old hat. It's kind of the same shtick that I've been doing for the last 10 years, but I think it provides great educational value to the general public on who the planning district is. So I'm going to kind of speed my way through this and see if there's any questions at the end. As many of you are aware, the First District Association of Local Governments is one of 6 regional planning and development districts located throughout the state. We have sister offices in Aberdeen, Yankton, Rapid City, Sioux Falls, and Pure. We're not government, but we're creatures of government. We were created in 1971 under executive order of then Governor Frank Farrar. And we operate under what's called a joint powers agreement. We are basically a member-based organization of 11 counties and 76 communities in northeastern South Dakota. Our mission then is still the same today. We're out there to promote quality of life issues and economic and community development by providing technical services to our local members. I kind of liken it to a Chamber of Commerce for local units of governments in many ways. We're out there promoting local units of government and the services that they provide. We are governed by a 35-member board where each county has 3 representatives on our board. Currently, Brenda Hanton is our county commission representative. Glenn Vilhauer represents the cities. And Chris Shilkin is our at-large member. We also have the members of the chairman of the Flanders Santee Sioux and Sisseton Wahpeton Oyate on our board as well. That board meets 3 to 4 times a year. They're generally charged with approving our budgets, our work plan, setting directions of the organization, acting as a resounding board from ideas of the director, and hiring the executive director on an annual basis. As far as how we are funded, we have 3 general streams of revenue that flow into our organization. All counties and all municipalities with a population over 100 pay dues into our organization. That represents about 22 to 23% of our annual operating revenue. We use those dues to leverage other state and federal grants, and we also do some state and federal contract work, which is about another 27%. So about half of our operating revenues comes in the form of fee-for-service work. And we're able to do that fee-for-service work at rates discounted to our members just through the power of the collective. I'm very fortunate to have 14 individuals working at the First Planning District with a lot of years of experience. Who knew in 1993 I'd still be working here 26 years later? Anyhow, there's days I wonder. But this group of individuals have a lot of expertise in a variety of areas in the services that we provide. We're very much known for our grant writing and loan writing application work for community and economic development projects. If those projects get funded, we always assist in the administration of those federal and state dollars. There's a lot of red tape associated with that, quote, free money that comes back into counties and communities. We do a lot of planning and research. The first 15 years of my experience with the district was primarily in policy development and community and economic development in areas of planning and zoning and variety of ordinance development. We do any sort of base research that our members are looking for. We assist in personnel policy management. If there's a question you want to know an answer to, you just ask. And if we don't know the answer, we'll try to find somebody that'll help you out. We have some specialty areas. Primarily GIS is very important to our organization. We have 4 individuals that work solely in GIS, database management, which we use in all of our planning activities as well as grant writing. We also have a sister organization called the First District Development Company. The FDDC is a certified SBA 504 development company, and we use SBA loan funds as well as our own portfolio of revolving loan funds to provide collateralized positions on various loans to private business in the district. So we usually will have a shared first or subordinated seconds on many local loans that help small businesses create and grow and expand. I think there's a lot of things that we do that provide a rate of return on your investment. And what the easiest one to show you generally is what have we done within our members in the districts in obtaining outside funding sources. Last year we were able to help our membership obtain about $29 million in grants and loans for a variety of community and economic development projects, $8 million specifically just in the form of grants. So if you take a look at what our dues were for the year and the dollars that came in, it was about a $30 return on investment for every dollar's worth of dues. That's since 2008, since I've been at the helm, we've been averaging about $26 a year. $65 million in grants alone in the last 10 years have come into the district. It's not our money. We don't have it in the closet, but we know where the closet's at, and we know we have a pretty good relationship with the principal funders in the state when it comes to community and economic development projects. Some years we don't do as much grant writing in some counties and some communities as we do in others. Cottington County and the city of Watertown was an example. We didn't really do any grant writing for the county or the city this year. It doesn't mean that you didn't have worthwhile projects, but the city's been very fortunate over the last 10 years or so to show a positive impact just on grant dollars. Cottington County specifically in the last 10 years about $10 million, about a $21 return on investment. When we take a look at Watertown, the grants that came into the city of Watertown over the last 10 years has been averaging about $32 for every dollar's worth of dues. So from that perspective, I think we do provide some value to the county. We actually did do 3 business loans in Cottington County last year where we were able to put in $709,000 into the 3 businesses that were total project cost about $1.9 million. So those very briefly is the just a general PowerPoint interview. I want to talk a little bit about the other handout that you have in front of you, and that just talks about some of the work activities worked on over the last year. We do a lot of things here in Cottington County. It's our home county, so obviously we're asked to help out and do a lot of things that maybe we don't get to in some of the counties that are further out. But we do maintain a lot of GIS databases for both the city and the county. We administer grants and loan programs in a variety of the communities over the last year. Florence and Kransburg have had water and sewer projects going on. In the city of Watertown, Luke Muller provides a lot of support services to staff in the building services department. Luke generally attends planning and zoning board meetings, dirt meetings, design review team meetings. Luke does a lot of some of the special research background to help Brandy out and Matt and Heath when it comes to a variety of issues. Luke did a lot of work on the sign code revisions that was adopted last year. Other thing that I think that Luke and myself do specifically, we act as a conduit between the city and the county, trying to keep both levels of government in contact and abreast of what's going on. Our office also acts as the zoning officer for Cottington County, and Luke Muller is the zoning officer. and we regulate the joint jurisdictional area with the city. And so Luke does a lot of work with staff and city staff and managing the development of the area within 3 miles of the city limits. We do a lot of GIS work for the city. We have been maintaining the city's GIS databases since the inception of GIS into the city. I can still remember 15, 18 years ago sitting down looking at putting together a GIS work plan for the city that we've been trying to operate off of for the last 15 or 16 years. We did do a little bit of CDBG grant administration this year, finishing out the Watertown Boys and Girls Club. We were able to help the Boys and Girls Club get that grant back in 2016. Ted Hayter in our office worked there. We've been continuously working on the updates to the comprehensive land use plan, and we can see the end in sight, and we're hopefully, I know I said this last year, but I really believe that we will have something on your desk here very shortly regarding that land use plan. And then we also helped with a state water plan application this last fall. So by and large, the rest of your handout is just same dollar information that I was talking about before. We've appreciated the working relationship that we've had with the city for the last 47 years. I appreciate Glenn's participation on our board. He brings a lot of valued information, especially from an accounting standpoint, which I'll admit I was a C student in USD in accounting, but I've gotten a lot better. So anyway, again, we appreciate our relationship, and it always goes back to the mantra is you just have to ask, and we'll be there to help. So any questions or comments, I'd be more than glad to answer.
Thanks, Todd. Glenn?
Just a comment. I mean, Todd and his staff, they are the go-to people when it comes to anything government-related. I mean, if they can't help you directly, like you said, you can probably point them in the right direction. And we are so fortunate to have this office right here in Watertown versus down in Brookings, for example, because I think we probably take advantage of the services that they can provide. Just as a small example, I know a number of us have asked in recent years about, can we get an inventory of the land that the city owns? And Todd and his staff did a fair amount of work on this, put together a nice printout of all the different parcels of land that the city of Watertown owns in the area. So just a small example of something that we can take advantage of.
Thank you.
Councilman Roby?
The joint jurisdiction with the county, is that working the way it's supposed to? The things we need to address on that?
I think, we were a little worried. It took me over 20 years to finally get it developed. We worked for many years to try to get it moving. We got the city and the county on the same page a few years ago. I think from a staff perspective, it's working out. I know Luke comes to every meeting on Tuesday mornings and talks about what's happening in the city, what's happening on the periphery, and it's a more formalized line of communication than it was in the past, and I think it's working. And I'm going to guess probably in a few years after the next census is taken up and we start taking a look back as far as what we've been doing in that joint jurisdictional area, there probably will be a need to review what we've been doing and seeing if there's any changes that need to be made. But I still think that's premature at this point. Donuts. Out in Pier, you'd have to stick $50 into the governor's habitat fund.
Because it's an alarm. Okay. Anyone else? I really appreciate the resource, having First District here, and you're exactly right, having them just down the street. That's been very handy, and we've used First District quite a bit. It's a good benefit to our community.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Todd. Yes.
I would just like to say, if you haven't done the GPS over there and haven't gone through, they'll give you a training as much as you want, but just to see the GPS operate is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you, Councilman and Dan. If you want to come over and see what you can access via the web, I know Adams, he uses it every day, and it's probably old hat for some of you, but you have an enormous amount of GIS data that you see it when staff comes up and they're actually using the GIS operating platform, but you can get this information at your fingertips, on the computer, in your hand, on your phone, And there's a lot of information. I think, I don't have to go to Google Earth. I don't have to look up something in the white pages or what have you. It's right there. And at any point in time you just want to call and ask for Ryan or Amy or myself, I can even do some training on that. We'd be more than glad to show you how to access that data.
Yep.
Thank you.
I use it every day too. Alrighty. Item number 5 is application for a transfer of ownership of a retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine and video lottery license from J. Amby 5 LLC doing business as Freedom Value Center, 225 West Kemp, to iMart Stores LLC doing business as iMart Stores, 225 West Kemp. I'll look for a motion and second for approval, and then I'll open the public hearing. Moved by Bueller, second by Lallam. And go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak about this topic? See none, I'll close the public hearing and ask if there's any comments or questions. Councilman Roby?
I'll recuse myself from this item.
Thank you. Anyone else? See none, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item 6 is approval of resolution number 19-08, expressing intent to enter into a lease agreement with Nathan Reichling for city-owned farmland adjacent to the Watertown Regional Landfill. I'll look for a motion and second for approval. Moved by Vilhauer. Second by Albertson. And I'll just say this is expressing intent, so the actual lease agreement will come later. But Matt, would you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. This is the first step in the statutory process that's required to lease municipal-owned property. Mike actually did show up tonight, and so I'll actually defer to him as far as the details of this lease that we'll be entering into.
This lease is for the 80.26 acres recently purchased by the landfill from the successors of Dolores Cook in 2017. The property is contiguous with the northeast border of the landfill. The property was rented for many years by the Lactus family from Hayti, and as that lease expired, Matt and I worked together to prepare this lease, and then we advertised the property for lease on January 29th, 2019 in the public opinion. The finance officer and Matt and I, we opened the 3 proposals received at 10 a.m. on February 8th, and the high proposal was for $237.50 per acre from Nathan Reichling of Watertown, South Dakota. After opening the proposals, the 3 persons providing proposals were informed that we intended to begin the process of recommending the city council award this lease to Nathan Reichling in the amount of $237.50 per acre, which is $19,061.75 per year. The lease is for 3 years. It's renewable for 3 additional 3-year terms, so for up to 12 years. The renewal is contingent upon the parties agreeing to the price per acre for the ensuing 3-year term, and the rent is due December 1st. The lease is non-assignable. And then I did some research in trying to determine the market value of this property. So I reviewed the 2018 SDSU South Dakota Farm Real Estate Survey, and that's the 28th annual survey that they have performed. And in summary, the survey indicates that the average cash rent rate in northeast South Dakota of non-irrigated cropland was $166 in 2018. And the average rent rate for Coddington, Dual, and Hamlin was $174 per acre. So I did also note in this 2018 survey that the average rent rate for high productivity, non-irrigated cropland in Coddington, Dual, and Hamlin was $218 per acre. So at $237.50, we're at about 109% of average, so I'd say we're probably near top dollar rent on this property. At this rate, it is $77.50 per acre higher than what we were receiving, which is an additional $6,220.15 in annual rent revenue. So, as Matt mentioned, we're going to go forward with that process that he'll guide us through to recommend this.
Does this revenue go back into the enterprise fund for the
Yes.
landfill? Yeah. Okay. Any questions or comments from council members? Seeing none, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Thanks, Mike. Item number 7 is approval of resolution number 19-09, expressing intent to enter into a lease agreement with Gerald Kasuski for city-owned real property located at the Watertown Regional Airport. So look for a motion second for approval. Moved by Lallam. Second by Roby. And Matt, will you describe what this is?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Similar to the previous action, this is the first step in the process for the municipality to lease property to private individuals. Mr. Kasuski has leased land out at the airport on which he owns a private hangar. And the previous lease expired, and now this is the first step, like I said. The next meeting, we will be presented with the actual lease to approve a new 25-year lease with Mr. Kasuski for the land under the building that he owns at the airport.
Any questions or comments from the council? See none, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item 8 is approval of resolution number 19-11, resolution consenting to a transfer of control of Clarity Telecom LLC franchise. Look for a motion and second for approval. Moved by Roby. Second by Bueller. Matt, please tell us about this one.
Thank you, Mayor. We received notice recently that Clarity Telecom LLC, which operates in our community as VAST, is going through corporate restructuring, essentially. They're bringing on a new private equity fund into their ownership, and it'll be organized under a new entity called Python Intermediate 2 LLC. And by ordinance, the council needs to approve any sort of changes in ownership like this. And so this is the action to approve their change in corporate structure.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments from the council? Councilman Danforth?
Matt, when we do, for example, when VAST or their predecessor name was first brought into or allowed to come into town, we certainly look at the need, but is there a financial analysis that's done on that as far as financial worthiness to operate, or is financial analysis never a part of something like this?
To be honest with you, I would have to do a little homework on that process. It hasn't that hasn't come up since I've been here, so I'm not extremely familiar with the process of granting franchises. I just know that we do need to approve ownership transfers in this case, but I can certainly report back.
Well, I was just curious, one thing you hate to do, and I know this is a merger or whatever it is, but it's kind of like our airline that even though it's outside of our realm of control, they went through a sale and 6 months later went bankrupt. Right. And I'm just curious if we're going to have a provider in town and we're issuing franchises, or in this case, authorizing the change, is there any financial analysis on our part that's done on that in order to, throw holy water on it that they're worthy of being here?
They do provide us confidential information on the transfer and their financials that is not required to be released publicly.
Okay, so there's something in the background there.
So we do have that documentation, yes.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Councilman Vilhauer?
This doesn't relate to the action that we're taking right now, but I can't help but ask the question. VAST is one of our sponsors at the Wellness Center. I mean, there's signage up there and et cetera. I mean, is that going to have any effect on that? Do we have any sense of that? John, do you?
My interpretation of the documents they gave us is it's simply a higher level, like I said, a private equity firm is coming in and taking a chunk of ownership of the parent company, and it's just a restructuring. It doesn't seem to me that there's any intention to change the way they're operating in Watertown.
Okay.
Good question. Any others? All right, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item 9 is the first reading of ordinance number 19-01, amending the district zoning map of the city of Watertown, South Dakota for property generally located north of 4th Avenue Southwest and south of 2nd Avenue Southwest along the west side of Highway 20 and legally described as Lot 1 and Lot 2 of WDA 2nd Edition upon plating. And there's no action required here, since it's just a first reading, but I would like Heath to explain what's going on here, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I could have Ray bring my screen up, I can talk through this in detail. Is mine up there? Okay. Thank you, Ray. So the general location here, as described in the title of the action, or the first reading here, we're directly northwest of the Watertown Municipal Utilities Building, straight north of 4th Avenue Southwest, right along Highway 20. This is part of the old railroad right-of-way that was subdivided, sold off, subdivided in the past. What the current owner would like to do, this is currently platted as one lot, this long rectangular diagonal lot, and a portion of it's been built out with residential development here to the southwest. The owner would like to subdivide this lot into 2 lots. In order to do so, the planning office has directed him and guided him through a rezone process. If you see on this diagram, this dotted line here is the current zoning map boundary between the C3 and the R3 zoning districts. So we effectively have split zoning on this one lot that currently exists today. So that was priority in the planning office in getting that cleaned up and accommodating the owner's wish to re-subdivide this lot into 2 lots. So that's what this lot line here shows, is the new proposed lot line to create Lot 1 and Lot 2. And then the zoning boundary would be extended to match the lot boundaries as required by our zoning ordinance. And so this is really a formality. It does extend the C3 zoning up into this corner, and the R3 zoning over into this corner as this new lot line is created and it is split into 2 lots. This C3 lot, there is plans for future development on here of a commercial nature, and the plat and second reading will be forthcoming for the council at the next council meeting.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Item number 10 is authorization for the mayor to sign an agency agreement with the South Dakota Department of Transportation for FAA funds. I'll look for a motion and second for approval. Moved by Wise, second by Lallam. And once again, this is the Matt show tonight. I'd like Matt to explain what this is.
Thank you, Mayor. So recently, the last week or two, we received this from the State Department of Transportation. State law requires that any political subdivision essentially can't deal directly with the FAA as far as requesting funding and that sort of thing. And so best I can tell what this is, and I don't think we've ever entered into this before, is that they want this agreement on file to make sure both parties are fully aware that we need to essentially go through them when we request funding, and if we're awarded funding from the FAA, it actually goes through the state and then it gets dispersed to us. And so they're asking us to basically enter into this agreement that will be on file in perpetuity unless something changes with the law. And then for each specific project that we request funding for, there will be additional agreements, of course, to sign. But this is just kind of a mutual understanding between the state and the city that they are our agents with the FAA.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, Councilman Roby.
What precipitated this?
To be honest with you, I don't know exactly. I can I can read the letter. It just says, if you'd like, real quick. It just says, as described in the body of the enclosed agreement, state law requires that all federal funding for airports goes through the SDDOT before being distributed to the airport sponsor. What this means is that you pay all costs for AIP projects yourself, and then I reimburse you the federal share of those costs. This is a blanket agreement that applies to all FAA funds. A separate state financial agreement will be issued for each AIP project as appropriate, determining the state's share of that project's costs. Essentially, it just says that the agreement will be kept on file and updated as necessary. So I don't know if the DOT was kind of going through their files and realized that maybe we hadn't signed one yet. Or I noticed that this statute was amended in 2014, so maybe it was something that was just added to the requirements of the statute that they're now tidying up. But best I can tell, it's just kind of a mutual understanding agreement to have on file for them.
So that's what I was wondering. It sounds like we've been operating under this procedure anyway. They just formalized it in 14, and now they want the paperwork.
Correct. Because it's required by law, but this just basically makes us acknowledge that it's required by law. Yep.
Thanks, Matt. Any other questions or comments? All right, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item number 11 is authorization for the mayor to sign a land release to the FAA for property legally described as Lot 4 of the Airport Industrial Addition to the municipality of Watertown, South Dakota. I'll look for a motion and second for approval. Moved by Albertson. Second by Bueller. And I will ask Matt again to please explain this.
Thank you, Mayor. Only one more item and then I'm done, okay? After this one, of course. So these next two items are actually related. Back in 2015, so this specific item, let me look here. This is the lot in question here is, when we entered into the agreement, it was JMS Precision out by the airport, and now I believe it's called Dakota Land. In 2015, we entered into an agreement to lease the land to them with an option to purchase. And part of our obligation in that agreement was to obtain the FAA releases that are required in order for us to allow them to exercise that option. And so over the past year, we did the last remaining piece to be done was to obtain an appraisal. And so we did obtain an appraisal for that lot. And this letter is the request from, I believe Helms prepared the letter for us to the FAA officially releasing the property in order for us to let, I believe it's Dakota Land now, know that they can go ahead and exercise that option if they choose.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? This was a long, long process. So, all right, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item 12 is authorization for the mayor to sign a land release to the FAA for the property legally described as Dakota Tube Airport Industrial Addition to the municipality of Watertown, South Dakota. So it's similar to the previous one. So I'll look for a motion and second for approval. Moved by Solom, second by Vilhauer. And Matt, tell us how this one is a little different.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So as with the previous action, the only difference here is that the party with the option is actually the Watertown Development Company, who has currently has a sublease with Dakota Tube at that property. But upon us getting the release from the FAA, they have a potential option that they can choose to exercise if they desire.
All right, any questions or comments? See none, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item number 13 is authorization for the mayor to sign a banking services agreement with ReliaBank. So look for a motion and second for approval. Moved by Vilhauer. Second by Solom. Oh, Lallam, sorry. And I will ask Kristen to tell us about this.
I was going to let Matt take this one too, but he said no. But before you is the banking service agreement. The last council meeting, we came before you with the RFP results, and out of this is the agreement in front of you. This will be with ReliaBank. If you look at it, I'll point out a few things. This will not take effect until March 1st. That is the time when our old agreement will end with Great Western Bank. The term of this agreement will be for 5 years with an option to renew one time for another 5-year term. I know the last time too, it had been asked if there was kind of a 90-day or a type of way to get out, and the early termination is in there, number 3. Number 5 kind of covers the interest rates that the city will get on the account. Other than that, number 8 covers the fee, which is $600 a month. The one thing that is a little bit different from the last one is we did actually add on there a place that Watertown Municipal Utilities will sign into the agreement as well. Before it has just been the city and the bank, and we've added that in there. I will say too that Municipal Utilities has had the opportunity to review this. I think David is here with ReliaBank, and ReliaBank has also had an opportunity to look through everything, and I think all parties are in agreement with what's in here. So if you have any questions, I can answer them.
Will this require a lot of work from our finance department to switch over?
Not too much. I think this will be, it'll go fine.
There are some things you'll have to do.
Yeah, and this will be, it'll take, I think we kind of talked about kind of that 6 to 8 week time frame. It won't be like, a one-time deal. We'll slowly move things over. We've stopped kind of some of our investments just so we kind of can follow the cash and stuff like that. So, but I think it'll go fine. It'll be a smooth transition. So,
did you have to use a different software or anything to for communications, or there's nothing like that involved?
As far as our accounting software will be able to just transition into it, and we'll learn the new ReliaBank software. So,
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions, Councilman Vilhauer?
Just a comment, I wholly support this, but I do want to thank Great Western Bank. We've had a good relationship for 20 years?
Yep.
The services they provided, so had a good conversation with one of their personnel, Kurt Trigo, last week, and he understands the decision and respects it, but by the same token, we owe them some gratitude too for the services over the years.
yes. Yep.
Right. Anyone else? All right, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item number 14 is approval of a Prairie Lakes Wellness Center full-time and part-time employee membership policy. So this is the one for the actual Prairie Lakes Wellness Center folks that work right there. So look for a motion, second for approval. Moved by Roby, second by Bueller. Any discussion about that? This will give a free membership benefit of the choice of the full-time and SDRS retirement system eligible employees, and a benefit of a single membership for the part-time employees that meet the criteria that are set forth in the policy. So it's a good deal. All right, no comments, and I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item 15 is approval of a full-time city employee benefit policy for Prairie Lakes Wellness Center membership reimbursement. And I should have mentioned this on the last one. It was recommended by committee. We went through a discussion at that time on both of these policies. For this policy, before I look for motion second, I would like to add 2 things. One, that multiple uses in one day will count the same as one use in a day. And 2, that city council members would be eligible for the benefit as well. And with those couple of changes, I'll look for a motion and second for approval. Got a motion by Y and a second by Danforth. And discussion. So this is for all other full-time city employees. It's a use-based reimbursement program. The employees would have to purchase the membership and use it for a year, and then if they've used it an average of once a week or 52 times over the course of a year, they'll get 1/3 of the cost of a single membership back. in reimbursement. If they use it on an average of 2 times a week over the course of a year, or an average, or a total of 104 times, they would get 2/3 back reimbursed. And if they use it an average of 3 times a week over the 52 weeks, or 156 times over the course of a year, they would get 100% reimbursement of a single membership, regardless of the benefit. Now, some employees will choose a family membership, some will choose a Fitness Plus or a couple. The reimbursement would be based upon a single membership. And this was recommended by the committee. So, any questions or comments? Councilman Danforth?
Mayor, could you take just a second? We had a discussion about this in our previous meeting, and share with the public, that those that are watching or will be watching this, as to the justification for doing this. What, from an employee benefit standpoint, and what we would hope to receive from the city standpoint. I think that's important. The reason why we do it
Sure.
is probably more important than what we do. So
Yes.
if you would.
Okay, there are a number of reasons to offer a wellness program that involves fitness. For one, we have this beautiful new wellness center that our city owns, and we employ people working there, and we as an organization employ people. And this is an added benefit that we can use to help attract city employees. We're not always the highest paid employer in town, but this is a benefit we can add, that which might help us to get some candidates to apply and take a job with us. It also has a benefit of encouraging healthy behaviors, that people who work out generally are healthier, they have lower levels of stress, and they manage their health better. It helps with a lot of different conditions, and can create savings on our health insurance. So there is a payback to the city in using it. It's also a morale booster, and a way to say thank you to our employees, which is good for everybody. It creates a more energetic and productive workforce. And many organizations provide this sort of benefit, and so we're choosing to do this. It's something that the city used to have a number of years ago and discontinued for a time, but it was popular with the employees, and as mayor, been asked by many city employees if we're going to get that back, and so I hope that this will pass. Are there any other questions or comments? See none, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item number 16 is old business, and I do have a little bit of old business. Happy to report that the United States Department of Transportation has indeed selected SkyWest as the provider for essential air service to Watertown and Pierre. The cities of Watertown and Pierre both recommended that choice, and the DOT acted very quickly to honor it, so we're very thankful about that. Should be a good thing for our community. They'll be offering a little bit more service than we saw. I think there's one more round trip flight per week than we had with ADI, and so that's a good thing. There'll be most days 2 flights out and 2 round trips, except for 1 day a week where there will only be 1, so 13 times, and I think we had 12 before. So this is a really good deal. SkyWest has interline agreements, and also has a relationship with United Airlines, amongst others, but they'll be flying as United Express. So the connectivity with all the United flights is really good. We fly into Denver, which is a United hub, and we'll be getting in early enough in the day to be able to connect with virtually any place that United flies out of Denver. And I think they have something like 400 flights out of Denver a week. So that's really good news for Watertown, and we're extremely happy about this.
Projected start
The projected start date, thank you, is April 3rd. So they'll be working very quickly. I understand they'll be setting up kiosks. You will be able to buy your tickets online and get your boarding passes, which we've never been able to do before. Well, not in the recent past. Been able to get electronic boarding passes and print your boarding pass before you come. So that will streamline the process a little bit. The interline agreements is a new thing compared to our previous carrier. Before, if you had a flight that went beyond Denver, you had to collect any checked bags at the baggage claim and go back through security and check back in before you could catch your connecting flight. And those days are gone. We'll be able to check bags all the way through from Watertown to our final destination. So that's a huge benefit. And some of the smaller airlines aren't able to do that. But SkyWest is a very mature, tested, reliable airline that I think is going to be able to give us the service that we really want and deserve in Watertown. Does anyone else have old business to bring up? How about new business? I actually do have one little piece of new business. You may remember that the SDSU architecture department studied our downtown and created a video game, and it's on our website. I have an update to that video game to load on there. And the video game allows you to electronically go downtown and look around and go up and down and maybe even play with the buildings a little bit. The professor Fong Zhu, who did this program for us, will be giving a presentation about this program in Watertown's downtown in Brookings on Thursday at the Brookings Art Museum at 6:30 p.m. And I intend to go. I think that's really cool that they did this for Watertown, and I'd like to see how he presents it to their regents and the community. And I would invite anyone who wants to go along to go. It starts at 6:30 at the Brookings Art Museum on Thursday, day after tomorrow. So everyone's welcome to come. Councilman Albertson? Yeah, I'm done.
I don't know if it's new business or what, but I see Chief is here from the fire department, and special thanks to the fire department for saving the community. You know, we lost a building in the community, but we didn't lose a whole street. So thanks to the fire department.
Right. The terrible, terrible conditions to be fighting a fire. The highways were closed because of blizzard conditions. It was like 20 or 30 below temperature, and the guys are out there squirting water on a fire, which is, of course, freezing, and they had to rotate shift after shift. No injuries. I just can't get over that. No injuries. We have a really fantastic fire department, and all of the first responders did really well, and our community can really be proud of itself for the outpouring of support for the first responders, and just for the whole community, and also the folks that were displaced by the fire. Our community came out to support everyone. So it's a bad deal that we had that fire, but it's really encouraging to see the community support we have, and what a fantastic fire department we have. So thanks. Any other new business? Any liaison member reports? Councilman Vilhauer?
Just a quick update from the Utilities Board. Senate Bill 66, which was the bill concerning investor-owned versus municipal-owned utilities and territory, et cetera. That bill has been deferred, I think is the right terminology. Anyway, it's going to a summer study, so there'll be no action taken on it this legislative session, but it will be studied more fully this summer.
Thank you, Glenn. Anyone else? All right, well, we will have an executive session this evening in order to discuss and consult with legal counsel on contractual matters, and we do not expect to take any action on coming out. So I'll look for a motion second to go into executive session. Moved by Roby. Second by Y. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries.